Great. All right, so we're going to continue on with our next experiential lab, which is the communications lab. And communications is very important when we are teaching anything, and especially Pilates. So we want to be as clear as we can with the information we're giving. We want to make sure that we are teaching people. We're actually giving people not just a movement experience, but we're teaching them something that maybe they didn't know about their own movement, and we're teaching them how to do things better. We've talked already about the communication skills of both tactile feedback and imagery, and now we're going to look at more of our direct cueing and how we organize our thoughts when we're teaching and how we're going to give information. So for me, one of the really important things is that I'm telling people what I want them to do. So that's going to be something that we're going to work on as we're teaching. And there are times when you will definitely do the opposite, but most of the time you're going to want to be increasing people's knowledge and telling them what to do. So there are a couple of quotes here at the very beginning of the lecture on page 70. So communication, what is to communicate? What does that mean? The definition is a process by which information is exchanged between individuals through a common system of symbols, signs, or behaviors. And that's interesting because the communication styles of years ago, 20, 30 years ago, was generally spoken person to person, where you're talking to somebody, talking on the phone to somebody, or in written letters. So if we think before the cell phone was very common and before the computer and email was very common, really our main style of communicating was face-to-face, some voice-to-voice on the telephone, and the rest was through written communication and letters and people writing full sentences, not talking in so much jargon, beautifully scripted, beautifully written letters was our primary style of communication in terms of interpersonal communication between two people, different than billboards and things that are out and newspaper and that. In Pilates, we still have that opportunity to have direct face-to-face conversation with somebody or communication within a group if you're teaching a group class. And we're noticing that especially younger and younger Pilates teachers, as they are so used to quick emails, text messages, instant messaging, Facebook, Twitter, a certain number of characters or less, that it's a little bit more challenging, and they're actually not very practiced. They're not very well versed to have a conversation with somebody where you have to really interpret what is this person telling us. In email communication now, especially in the corporate world, very clear guidelines about not typing in all capital letters or bold or putting many, many exclamation points after something. Being clear with your writing, because you don't know, did the cap key get locked on and you thought, oh, I'm just too lazy to go back and change everything, and so I just typed the entire note in all capital letters, or am I interpreting that as you yelling at me, right? Why didn't you do this? Could easily be, hey, can you let me know why you didn't do this, just so I have it for my knowledge, versus why didn't you do this, right? So it could be the same question, but you don't know how the sender in electronic communication is actually, how are they saying it, right? So our interpretation dictates a lot of how the communication is received, even if it was given another way. So just some good guidelines that don't type in all capitals, don't make it bold or red or exclamation points. Have it be a lot less emotionless, okay? A lot less emotion in your communication. So another definition here. Successful communication involves clarity in sending and receiving. Neither the sender nor the receiver is ever in total control of the effectiveness of the message. It is always a shared responsibility. And I think that's really important. In Polestar, we try to live by, as much as we can, seek first to understand, then to be understood. If you put yourself in the shoes of the person who is actually delivering the information, you might you might think about it or interpret it a little bit differently, or you'll seek clarity before you assume, oh, that guy's a total jerk, I can't believe he said that to me, or again, maybe they missed a word in the sentence, or you know, again, in terms of electronic communication, text messaging or email. Now, when you're face-to-face with somebody, you have a much easier time of reading body language, tone of voice, how are they delivering it, and you can instantly ask for clarification. Well, what do you mean by that? So that's the benefit of being one-on-one with somebody or in a small group. You can seek that clarity, plus you're able to read the body language where you aren't able to see the person sitting and typing the letter on the computer. And it is, as we were talking about people with, younger people with more experience text messaging and emailing, their ability to read body language is not as great. So they don't have the clarity that we have because we've been doing it for much longer, which doesn't happen any longer. So we're going to go through a couple of these phrases that are on page 70, and then we will work them together in our groups, small groups of people. Thinking of the footwork on the reformer exercise, so lying on your back in supine, pressing back and forth. Thinking of the things that are important. So what, just before we even go through this exercise, what would be things that would be really important that you want to tell people about footwork? All right, you might talk about body alignment, leg alignment, the quality of movement of how they're pushing back and forth, why they're doing it, what's the purpose of it. So those are a lot of things that we want to share with people. So if you close your eyes and imagine yourself lying down on the reformer, getting ready to do footwork, maybe you hadn't done it very many times. How do these cues make you feel, and how well do you know what I'm trying to get you to do based on these cues? So as you're doing your footwork, don't arch your back. How does that make you feel? How do you know what you're supposed to do, or do you feel also invited into doing it? Don't arch your back, and don't lock your knees. Right? I've heard that many times in Pilates classes, but just don't lock your knees. So then I get people who've come to me and they say, oh, well, my teacher before, they said don't lock your knees. And I said, well, what does that mean? Well, I shouldn't straighten my legs all the way. Like, no, that's not what that means. Don't lock your knees means don't go past your straight position and get to a point where you have pushed into hyperextension or you've just stopped the movement abruptly, even if the leg is just straight. So we want to have some give and take there. So instead, what I might say for don't arch your back is we're going to be in our neutral position. Remember, you learned that before. So you're going to place your head, the back of your rib cage, and the back of your pelvis on the mat during your footwork exercise. See if you can do that without letting your ribs lift. Keep the back of your ribs on the mat. So that gives a little bit more information, plus it's a little friendlier than just don't arch your back. Okay, or don't lock your knees. So fully lengthen your legs, fully press the carriage back without changing your neutral position. So now I've given two pieces of information. Hopefully that's helpful and the client can take that on board. And the last one is the ever popular relax, which is usually given with that. So quite often it's not, okay, and now relax, and has a nice voice. But when people are very uptight and they've just come in from dealing with traffic or kids or whatever, and they're lying down and they're moving very fast and they're breathing very fast, and you're like, relax, what's wrong with you? Again, not very helpful. It's not, relax is not a very useful cue, especially when you're in a state of excitation. So things like images of letting the body melt into the mat. If you were on the memory foam mattress, you could sink into it. You could feel the bones resting against the mat. So those would be some things that would be a little bit more useful. And let's pick one more. I love side kick on the mat. So if you imagine you're doing side kick, you're propped up on your elbow and the leg is swinging forward and back. Again, have just a thought about what does this elicit in you? What does this either make you feel or notice, or what images come to mind when you do this? Side kick on the mat. Well, don't hang in your shoulders. What does that mean? What does that mean? Don't hang in your shoulders. Probably something about slumping down and not having very good alignment. But if you're a beginner, don't hang in your shoulders doesn't tell you what to do. So you'd want to make sure that you tell people what you want them to do. Press into the floor and draw your shoulders and ribs up. Create a triangle under your body with the side of your rib cage, the side of your arm, and the mat. So there's an image that they can feel and have a sense of. It's a shape that's common, and an activity of draw the ribs and shoulder up so that they're not sagging down. Another way that you can use communication skills for describing movement is in the contrast. So unless it's going to be something that is going to injure somebody or puts them in a position that they shouldn't be in, or something that's unsafe, you can often give them the other option for movement. So if I want to maintain my neutral position and lift my legs up and down for dead bug or femur arcs, I might tell them, now allow your back to lengthen onto the mat, and now do the movement. Allow your body to come back into neutral, feel that there's a little space, and now do the movement. So that would be a way of giving the nervous system some information and giving the client a little clearer picture about what you want them to do. These things to us are very simple. We know what neutral is versus flexion or extension, but the clients really don't, and sometimes they get confused as to what that is. So doing it one way and then doing it a different way can help give more information. Okay? Some other things that you can keep in mind when you're doing the, when you're talking about communication, how you're organizing, how you're going to communicate with your clients, one of the things that's very powerful is intonation. So if I'm delivering this message like this and I'm not really looking at you, my body language is a little bit down and my intonation's kind of flat, it's not very interesting, you're probably going to turn off the tape any moment and go do something else, because that's very boring. So my intonation was very flat. It wasn't very expressive. My eye gaze came away. My body language came down to be very schlumpy. So all of those things will make you lose good rapport with the client. They'll kind of get bored and distracted because you're bored and distracted. The same thing goes for an intonation that's much higher than where the client is. So if your client comes in and they're kind of subdued and they're not somebody who has a very big personality, but you're talking like this, and you're in, and you're really excited, and now we're gonna have the best class ever, and now I want you to lay down, and I want you to put your feet in, and you also haven't met that client where they are, right? You've just completely pushed them over with your voice and your intonation and your excitedness. So one of the things that you can do is try to meet people where they are, and then just see if you can lift them up a little bit or bring them down a little bit from that point. So if the client is a little bit more relaxed, you might change your body position to be a little bit more forward and come down a little bit with your voice. But then quickly, you're going to start to raise that so that as you go into your bridge, I want you to peel your pelvis up off of the mat and reach through your knees, and then begin to roll back down. So in the movement, you can start to raise their level or bring their level down a little bit, and you can also talk about how the movement is going to go. So it's really difficult. If you are wherever you're sitting or standing, think about rolling down. So you're going to do a seated roll down or a standing roll down or a spine stretch. And my voice says, and I want you to roll down toward the floor. That makes sense because my voice went down. It's almost impossible for me to do it, but if I was to say, all right, now you're going to roll down, right? It's hard for me to lift my voice because those things are not congruent. People teach the 100, which is one of those zippy exercises, with such low enthusiasm. So they're bored, and inhale 2, 3, 4, 5, and exhale 2, 3, 4, 5, and oh, you're still doing it. Oh, you're still here, right? So we need to keep in mind, if we can help an exercise be more fluid and lovely, maybe you're doing the circumduction and you want to have the circumduction reach around and come over and pause, and then reach back, and that might be a way to improve the quality of it. And the 100, if you're doing the 100, you want to have an inhale 2, 3, 4, 5, exhale 2, 4, 5. Keep reaching long through your feet, and you can start to give both the cues, and this is the dance teachers of the world will have an easier time with this, but you can actually count in snapping or patting, or you can count by what you're saying. So you can lead the movement by what you're saying. And inhale 2, 3, 4, 5, and lengthen through the top of your head. Tells me the next the next 5. So that's important. And that does take some practice. If you're not used to doing that, that's a very strange thing to have to do. So that's part of the things that we have to practice. Body language. I mentioned it again at the beginning of turning the eyes away, not making eye contact, and just looking extremely bored. I've seen people sitting back on their chairs with their knees bent, you know, back like this while they're teaching. It's like, people are paying money for you to watch them. You better get up and get going. And that's important. Otherwise, you may miss things in group classes. Teachers who sit or teachers who do the movement with the clients the entire time, you miss an opportunity to see what's going on. And how are you going to cue these people if you don't know what they're doing wrong? So to give really accurate cues, you want to make sure that you're up and moving around. It also shows an interest. When the teacher is always sitting down, they may just be sitting and they may be really interested. But if you sit all the time, you know, again, how much interest do you have in those people in the classroom? So that's important too. So intonation, the rise and fall, rhythm, motivation. What's the motivation for doing this? Sometimes you need to convince the clients to do these things. So through what you're talking about, you can build interest. Now, this is going to be a great exercise for increasing your hamstring flexibility. And I know that's what you want to do. So we're going to work on that now. If you just say, well, okay, well, we're going to stretch the hamstrings now, that's not so interesting. So if you're really invested in it, they will be invested in it too. So you can do that. Plus, if you have an exercise that is pretty challenging, you want to convince that person that it's the greatest exercise ever, right? We're going to do this great exercise on the reformer. It's called stomach massage, and it's so cool because stomach massage is one of the more traditional classical exercises, and it's going to have some hamstring stretching. You're going to work your abdominals, and then you're going to work on your posture, and then at the very end we're going to put a ball behind your back and you're going to do this stretch. Oh, it's so great. I love this exercise. Here we go. Versus, well, you know, this exercise, I was told I have to do it. I don't really like it. You're probably not going to like it either. But you're going to sit on the reformer. It's kind of uncomfortable. And then you're going to slide back. It's going to feel like your pants are sliding off, which is embarrassing. But that happens to everybody, so whatever. And you're going to sit there and your feet are going to be on the bar. It's going to be really hard to get into position because your hamstrings are unstretched. And then you got to do this funny thing. And nobody knows what to do with their arms. But, well, okay, here we go, right? Totally different, right? And we joke a little bit about that, and it is kind of funny, and we make light of it. But there are times where I have heard, you know, things like that. Maybe not quite so extreme, but things like that. So you want to make sure that you aren't overselling it, underselling it, that you're meeting the person where they are, and then just raising them up a little bit or calming them down a little bit. Make sure that you're trying to understand where they are coming from. Seek first to understand. If they're mad when they come in and they bark at you, it's probably not your fault if you've only been in their presence for a couple of minutes, right? You can assume that maybe something happened in the parking lot or at their child's school or whatever it was. Don't always assume. Don't be too quick to assume that you are the cause of it. But have a discussion and have a dialogue and make sure that you're always including the client in the session. So I hope some of these tools are helpful for you in structuring what you're going to say about and how you're going to talk about the exercises, and also how you're leading the clients through the movement. The clearer you can be, the clearer that your goals are, and the better that you can use your voice and word choice, the better sessions you're going to have with your clients.